it's the Elon Musk, the Mark Zuckerberg, the people that start with something totally radical, new. People started to use more and more cryptocurrencies.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Proof of Words podcast. I am, as always, your humble host, Patrick Lowry. Joining me today is a guest that I'm actually real excited to have an interview with, Pablo Fabris. Pablo is a former Argentinian banker, as well as I guess we said it was difficult to describe what you're currently doing now, Pablo. It's consulting, it's journalism, it's being a public speaker. I mean, maybe it's best to just hear it from you, if you wouldn't mind giving us a quick introduction to yourself.
Thanks, Patrick. Well, my name is Pablo Fabris. I am, I think I loved, I have several interests. So I normally do now I'm doing journalism, but I've been in the career in the banking industry. I was a bank manager. I deal with complicated economies and how the team has to adapt to that kind of changes. So I am enthusiastic about the changes we are living now in the technology. So I have a journalism account. So normally I am doing interviews and I'm talking with people pioneer in their fields. And I do mentorships and consultancy, and I speak as a speaker too, because I have a lot of experience in the field and in theory, because I study several careers too.
So we're going to kick off with the banking side of things. So you used to be a bank manager within multiple Argentinian banks. Now, the Argentinian banking ecosystem over the last decade or so, or even longer, I would say, has been hazardous, to just put it bluntly. I mean, it has, in Argentina, you've had near triple digit, if not triple digit inflation. Your interest rates have been triple digits. I mean, what, to your mind, was, first off, the root cause of this? And what was it like operating as a bank manager within these institutions, dealing with, frankly, relatively unprecedented interest and inflation rates for such a sustained period of time?
Well, that was something that I was always worried about, because I'm interested in the economy of my country, and I want my country, my people, the people of the country has wealth and good quality of life. So one of the main causes is like print money. It's the main of the things that happens in normally in South America and other economies, because they normally print money. For example, check this example. I've been look at for the American example in the pandemics, the COVID, or Europe. Each country print money. So when they print money, you're going to watch in the economy 1 year after, 2 years after, you're going to see how the inflation rates start to grow up. So that's the main stuff that happened in the economy. So how to change that? Because people for example, when you have your income, you have to have savings. People has to cover to that inflation that is going on. So normally, what is going on? People like buying dollars to protect their incomes, their savings, or but they have to cover. They have to buy the dollars in the black market, because you have another problem that other governments, not this government, but the other governments started to control. It's the exchange rate. So what is happening when you have when you have started to control the exchange rate? It's like an incentive to the black market, so you start to go to have a gap between the white, how we call it, the white and the black, the official and the black market. So the problem is that you cannot buy dollars. So if you want to buy dollars, you have to buy dollars in the black market. So you have to start a lot of problems around this matter. So what normally people does in the banking industry? In the banking industry, normally the common people, has mutual funds and fixed long terms, fixed terms deposits. So normal people doesn't know too much about other options about how to save their savings.
So, I mean, what was it like for you being one of the bank managers there, working in a highly changing environment? I mean, interest rates are going through the roof. Inflation is going through the roof. You're an expert in change dynamics and change management. I mean, what was it like managing those teams as you're going through these crises?
The first time I talk to my people is we have to adapt. We have to adapt. And this is lesson I guess is very important to everyone in the
What
world
does that
now.
adaptation look like? So yes, you want to adapt, but I mean, what is it that you guys are instilling? What processes, procedures, or changes are you making to deal with the environment that you find yourselves in?
Okay, normally we had to, as a bank, as a bank manager too, you have to sell. You have a budget. You have to sell, I don't know, credit cards, loans, I don't know, another deposits. You have to sell. So you have a budget, you have to cover that. So, and normally that is happened. It was like in the main, in the first days of the January, you have your budget for the whole year. Maybe you were at the fourth month, I don't know, in April, and they changed the budget again. So you have to change all the time. So there's no time to complain. You have to cover, and you start to sell. I don't know. For example, one of my main strategies was like, for example, we have some loans that were a high rate, but was a high rate, but in comparison with the rate, inflation rate, I compare, so it was different. So it was low if you compare. And another strategy is like when you take the loan, you continue for example, my client, no, my client takes the loan. When you take the loan, you can continue investing in the company and buy stocks and other stuff, for example. And when you are in the middle of the loan, you can stop the loan. You can pay everything you left, because the inflation is like you're starting to feel like each month you start to feel that you're paying less and less, because the inflation is every price is getting higher. So one of the strategies was like to adapt. This is opportunity for the people that takes the money, do something with the money, start to pay, and with the inflation rate, the inflation it's like it's getting higher, and each pay it's going to feel like you're paying less and less. If you want to in the middle of the loan, you can pay everything and just complete and finally you just finish the loan to pay the loan.
Okay, so then, I mean, it's kind of like creating new financial products that had never really been tested before in this type of environment. Did you guys find much success with this? Or because the Argentinian people, the people that would naturally use these services, were they a bit reluctant to hold dollar or hold the Argentinian peso in deposits at the bank just because of what inflation was? Or did you find that they were accepting of these types of financial products?
What kind of financial product do you mean?
Well, it's maybe not a financial product, but I mean, basically, you were taking deposits, and effectively, they were going to be They were going to be having returns that exceeded the inflation rate. Yeah, I mean, did you have much success with that?
No, it doesn't happen. For example, one of the problem is that, for example, you take the money and you maybe a mutual fund covers you against the inflation, maybe depends the risk you take, right? But the other one, the fixed term, for example, it gives you a rate, but it's not more than the inflation rate. It's less, so you lose less.
Were there any things like money market funds that you'd be able to invest in? Like, so for instance, like in the US, you have money market funds, some that actually are we have what we call a TIPS fund, a Treasury inflation protected security, right? Is there anything like that in Argentina that was
Yeah,
attempted?
yeah,
Or
but it's not so popular. Less popular. It's the people that it's too conservative, you know.
got it. So
And
what
you have
types
people
of
that 40 years that they have 40 years and they continue being so conservative.
Well, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you are instilling an idea of being conservative with money whenever money is becoming significantly more, actually not significantly more, but it's becoming worth less and less and less over time. So I think that kind of becomes a bit of a behavioral financial study, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So what happened after the pandemics or in the pandemics? People started to use more and more cryptocurrencies. So the young generations and even the young generations start to talk to the old generations like you have to do this. For example, the sons to their parents start to talk with their parents, just asking we have to do, for example, we can do our savings, or for example, we have like, for example, one of the main countries that cryptocurrencies and crypto assets started to grow are in Argentina. So because people doesn't want to be regulated, you know, it's like like a search of freedom or something, you know.
Exactly. I mean, people don't like, I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people will say rules are made to be broken, right? That's just how the world operates. And now I don't necessarily think that that's fundamentally true. There are certain societal norms that we all have to adhere to and agree to if we're going to participate and be a member of normal civilized society, right? But regulation compliance is overburdensome, and regulators and bureaucrats in the regulatory schemes typically over-regulate. I mean, we see it in my country in the United States with the SEC significantly. I'm sure it was the same
I
thing in
bet
Argentina.
it's worse in Argentina.
I'm sure it's much worse in Argentina. That's why you're afueraing everything.
It's every day you have any new regulation, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. So then, I mean, so what types of cryptocurrencies were the younger generations using? Because, for instance, I have a lot of friends in Venezuela, and I mean, basically, at the time of this recording, we're witnessing in real time what's happening with the recent election results, alleged election results in Venezuela. But for instance, none of them necessarily use Bitcoin. Everybody wanted Tether. Everybody wanted USDT. While Bitcoin, of course, is a store of value, and I think from a long-term investment perspective, it makes the most sense, even if you're Venezuelan. But for these individuals who have been experiencing, I mean, not just really, really high triple-digit inflation numbers like what you have in Argentina the last decade, they're flat out experiencing hyperinflation, right? For them, they would rather be in US dollars or at least a stable coin backed by US dollars. So for them, it became Tether, right?
The four and five options you said, they are all works in Argentina. So Tether, Bitcoin, yeah, and the stable coin was what normally people started with stable coins, for example, as a way of buying dollars, you know, and be covered. Just and they started with these options, these opportunities.
So has there ever been a implementation from a payments perspective for like microtransactions and remittances at local grocery stores in Tether and in Bitcoin? How popular has that become? Is it something that's become rampant?
Yeah, in my Instagram account, I have an Instagram account that where I talk about the develop of businesses. So one of my guests was Lemon Cash. Lemon Cash is a wallet, for example, well popular in Argentina. That there was some guys from Argentina that were between 20s and 30s, and they built this app that is a wallet so you can pay with everything. And they did they call it San Martin Valley or something like that, in another province of the country. They tried to develop every market there. So it's way popular there. So they started to be very well used in the whole country. So, for example, I've been as a manager of a classical bank, as the typical bank. I remember like being in a place like too remote, too far, and I was like waiting to pay in that place with cash. And there was like some kids in front of me, and they were paying with this wallet, you know. So, and it was like, I don't know, it was a poor place, you know, but they were paying with this wallet. So that's the hope for the new generations that started to do and develop this kind of tools to pay. And it's well popular. The most popular is Mercado Libre. Maybe you should know
I've heard
them.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mercado Libre is one the most popular, but it's like a way of pay with pesos, the classical, the Argentinian coin.
Interesting. So are you seeing, I mean, I know you haven't been working in the banking industry for the last, I guess, year or two, but are you seeing and are you advising some of your banking clients, for instance, that they should be adopting the use of these stable coins, that they should be adopting the use of these wallets from a banking practice? Or is that something that, for instance, the regulatory bodies in Argentina or compliance does not permit these banks to be a part of?
They are like, they are not so regulated as banks, but they have regulations, you know, not so much as banks. So that is the advantage for them. For But with my clients, the people that work with the bank, they are normally people that are more than 40s normally, and they are more like conservative. They don't understand the cryptocurrencies, and they are like too. They don't want too much risk, and they see us risky because they cannot touch it.
So let's put on our change management hat, right? Because whenever there's a radical paradigm shift, and clearly Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies represent a radical paradigm shift for the traditional banking industry. That's why, for instance, in the United States, you've seen for the last decade a lot of banks and very corrupt politicians like Senator Warren, who's in the pockets of the banks, trying to shut Bitcoin and crypto down. Now, in our country, that conversation has changed over the last 4 or 5 years for sure. The Democrats are weaponizing everything they can against Bitcoin, but there is a bipartisan effort for Bitcoin adoption. And just over the last weekend at the Bitcoin Nashville conference, Donald Trump announced that he's going to ban all CBDCs, never going to see a CBDC in America, and build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Will that happen? I don't know. I hope it will. But on the flip side, I mean, there has to be, I mean, the first practice of change management is, of course, creating a sense of urgency, right?
As a pandemic.
So for those 40-year-old Argentinian bankers that are highly conservative, they're not really ready about Bitcoin or crypto, they don't care about it, or maybe that's the wrong way to put it. They might care about it, but they're not ready to use it. How would you, being a change management expert, create that sense of urgency to help push adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in Argentina?
I think one of the main I think when this is going to be more popular, maybe people started to adopt it because, you know, for example, this kind of clients, they have like a very big, I don't know, amount of money, and they normally do with the, they do some mutual funds as a more risky stuff, you know, some more risky stuff, but mutual funds, for example, with the advisor of the person of the bank. So the person of the bank is going to explain you only the product that the bank sells. They never explain you what other options you have with the cryptocurrencies and everything. But to answer your question, I think the situation in per se is going to has like when you have good earnings, maybe people started to change to that that kind of investments, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that certainly makes sense. So kind of transitioning topics here a little bit. I mean, just over a year ago, the world kind of watched in fascination and awe, or at least I certainly watched in fascination and awe, as the first true libertarian candidate became the leader of one of the largest countries on earth, right? That's the first time in history, I think, that we've ever seen that happen when Javier Milei won the Argentinian election. Uh, what does that mean for the Argentinian people? And what does that mean for individuals like you working in the change management space? I mean, clearly this is a radical change. I mean, Javier's going in and just completely turned the government upside down.
It's not what is happening in the world.
Sorry?
It's not what is happening in the world now.
Yeah.
Disruption, like the extreme changes. So
Yeah.
it's the way. It's, for example, this man. I think it's the Elon Musk, the Mark Zuckerberg, the people that start with something totally radical, new. For example, I don't know. I'm talking in the businesses, but I think in politicians too, or Bukele in Colombia. So I think it's very important to the country, because I think the country, some of I think the country is like split, normal as usual. Argentina is like split. One of the half loves him, what the other half hate him. But I think he's going to do something radical, and I am in favor, because I think the country needs to open, because when you start open the economy, a lot of opportunities start to appear to the country. So my main concern now is that the country has a lot of resources, and it's, as you said, very quite big. They don't have wars. We don't have a lot of problems that the world normally has. For example, I am here in Berlin and talk with the German people, and they worry about the war, that it's way close here. It's not close in Argentina. Argentina has a lot of opportunities to grow, has a lot of opportunities. For example, they have they can do something different. They have made some. They changed the law a couple of weeks ago. It's been approved, so it started to come new investment to the country, but big investments. So that's going to make the economy grow fast, because the economy was in recession. The whole world is in recession right now. But when you have a lot of potential, but the economies stop, when you have investments and everything like that, it started to develop the economy. So I think it's going to have a fast growing, and we'll see it in the couple of years, in the close couple of years. So I think it's very good. It's something different, and he is betting to. He's libertarian, as you said. He's open to freedom. So I think the world is now in debate. What about the freedom, or the governments that controls the life of their citizens? For example, we come from a country that was like 20 years like that. Everything you do, you have to ask to the government if you can do it or if you cannot do it. I'm just being like giving you a big example. It's not like that, but it was like you have to. It's too bureaucratic, you know.
And I think that's become a big problem with a lot of governments. I mean, I grew up, I guess, traditionally conservative. I like to think relatively centrist. I mean, I'm very left leaning when it comes to social policies. I'm very right leaning when it comes to fiscal and monetary policies. But what I've seen happen and transpire probably over the last 10 years or so, but really came to a crux during the COVID years, was a push by leftist politicians, those that would typically be Democrats in the United States or more liberal politicians in other parts of the world, a strong push towards an authoritarian government state. And we've seen that happen in Germany just over the last couple of years. We've seen that happen in Western Europe. It certainly is happening in the UK. It was happening I mean, it's been happening in the U.S. for a long, long time. I mean, it's interesting to see this flip. I mean, historically, the Republicans, the party that were supposed to be for big government and big controls in the government, well, that flipped, and now the Republicans are the ones that don't want big government, and the Democrats are the ones that do. It's absolutely fascinating how that flip occurred over the last 20 years or so. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, where now it's not a conversation of left versus right, conservative versus liberal. It's a conversation of authoritarian versus freedom and liberty. Unfortunately, we're still stuck in the same old world of having, at least in the United States, two parties that flip-flop their views constantly based on whatever the political agenda they happen to have at that time is. And we haven't seen a third-party candidate really emerge. I mean, the last two elections, for instance, even Donald Trump was involved in, I never voted Trump. I always voted for the Libertarian Party's candidate. This time around, because the left has gone off its complete rocker, I will be voting for Donald Trump just because he's the only choice that I can have right now. So that's why it's absolutely fascinating for me to see an outsider, a true libertarian like Javier Milei come in, flip the switch on its head, have a grassroots movement that the people identify with, that they want liberty, they want freedom. And it's a very interesting experiment, because if he's successful, I think this will have ripple effects throughout the entirety of the world.
Yes, I think the world is watching what is happening in Argentina. So it's like I talk with people from all over the world all the time. So I think that they have some expectations about what is happening in the country, because it's like, I think it's like a kind of experiment. If this goes well, it's going to be like, oh, let's see the case of Argentina. Let's do that like that, for example. But because I see some similar stuff here in Germany, for example, like people like or different. The same the discussions, I see some coincidence in each country when I talk with people. It's like, but in the deep, you are talking about this. What do you want? Freedom? Or do you want a government that give you this and take care of you? And you
It's
cannot.
freedom versus security to a certain
Yeah,
extent at the
yeah,
end of the day, right?
yeah.
And I mean, I always
Yeah, but
liken this.
for example, check out the Venezuela case. Check out the
Exactly.
Venezuela case. You have the security. You have the security. We want equality. Okay, we are going to be everyone in the same situation. Poor, for example, as an example. But check the Venezuela case. I'm very worried about the Venezuela people, because in Argentina we have a lot of Venezuela people from Venezuela that left their country, like I don't know, 20% of the population left the country. 20%.
I mean, so I know a lot of Venezuelans in Europe. I mean, one of my very best friends in Germany, he's Venezuelan. He still has family in Venezuela. He considers himself incredibly lucky to have gotten out, and he still sends back a lot of money to his family there, just because the money there has become effectively worthless under the socialist communist regime that they've had in Venezuela for the last couple of years. I mean, if you want to take the perfect example of what not to do with the country, probably the best example, I mean, granted, there are significantly worse cases, human atrocities that have occurred in numerous other countries. But if you want to look at what's been the absolute worst in the Western Hemisphere, it got to be Venezuela, right?
Yeah, it's like, I think there's a lot of expectations about what is happening there after the elections, because I think the world is watching what is the worst that happened with the socialism, in Venezuela, for example.
I mean, it's horrifying to watch this. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so as we're doing this recording, the elections just occurred, 2 days ago, I think it was. Maybe it was 3 days ago.
The
And
Sunday, yeah. 2
yeah,
days ago.
Sunday. Exactly. So 3 days ago, we're recording this on a Wednesday. I mean, we don't know what the true outcome of the election is. There's a lot of evidence that is showing that Maduro did not win. A lot of the exit polls are showing that he actually lost by about 30% of the vote. Like the opposition won something like 60, 65%. Maduro got 30 or whatever.
I heard 70%.
I wouldn't doubt it. And you see what's happening on the streets now in the days following the election, where you have riots where they're tearing down the statues, where people are going to the storehouses, and they're finding food and they're finding medicine that the Maduro groups were allegedly hiding from the people, creating false shortages for I mean, I don't know why you would do that, but I mean, it just makes people more dependent on your communist government, right? It's absolutely horrifying what we're learning down there right now. And all I see out of that regime, and allegedly they arrested the opposition leader yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it looks like they did
I'm
on
not
video,
sure.
right?
Not sure, but they are arresting people that it's against the government.
They've
I
been out
heard that.
exactly, and they're doing so under the guise of these people are challenging the election results. I mean, when I see things like this and I compare it to what Democrats and what a lot of leftist groups in the West are saying and doing, it looks like the same damn playbook. You have to shit on anybody and allege to arrest anybody that challenges any election results. And you actually go out and try to get these people arrested. I mean, just look at what's happened with Donald Trump over the last 4 or 5 years, ever since. I mean, I don't say the 2020 election was rigged by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know enough to do that. But I mean, even just questioning the idea that there could be elements of fraud in an election now is a crime punishable by death to certain people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very worried about the Venezuela situation.
Well, but this is where I compare and contrast. Because you see two elections, of course, with their own nuances, Argentina and Venezuela, both on the same continent, albeit very, very different parts of the world. People forget how big South America actually is, right? But you still see one group that has fought their way towards having a libertarian candidate, one that promotes freedom and liberty, while still combating socialists. There is a very big socialist push in Argentina. There has been for some time. And then on the other is
100
people
years.
that sorry?
For 100 years.
Exactly, for 100 years.
100 years.
And then you see on the other side a socialist regime in power that seemingly has lost their election, but is keeping their power at the threat of gunpoint. Where is there a difference? Why was Argentina able to pull this off without revolution, whereas Venezuela could not in a peaceful manner? Because, for instance, there's saying you can always vote yourself into socialism, but the only way out of socialism is with a gun.
Yeah.
How is Argentina able to kind of pull it off, but the Venezuelans not so much?
In Argentina, we always watch the case of Venezuela because the last government, Fernandez de Kirchner, do you know the
yes, I'm familiar, yeah.
Okay. Kirchner and Fernandez, the last president, they were like, Kirchner was like 3 governments. First one was Nestor Kirchner, and second 2 governments from his wife, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, and they do the same stuff that Venezuela did, you know? So we always wanted to, they were like aligned, you know? They were like alliance. And the last government won Alberto Fernandez with Cristina Kirchner as a vice president. So she chose this man as a president, and in this case was the pandemics there. So they were like very bad government, and people with, for example, the loss of freedom when they mandatory send the people to their houses. So people started to lose their temper, and for example, they had another scandals like the vaccines. They put the vaccine to some friends, or the first vaccines were to their friends, where people were dying. Or, for example, another party that the president made in his house when nobody comes meet with other people. So there was like the people was like totally against the government. So when everything started to happen before the win Milei, the president started to print a lot of money, for example. yeah, a lot of money to so the people has money and buy consume stuff, and it's a way we call it like platita, plan money, because it was like a way of give. It is a populist way of do incentive give incentives to the people that vote them, but the people weren't voted them, so they voted Milei because Milei they always he knew how to do it. He started to talk about the loss of freedom and the libertarian stuff, and it was like perfect match for the people that was in that situation. So the last 4 years was very important for Milei, and he won without team. He was like too small, but he, in a way, he developed power and started to do some reforms to the government and the people and the laws. So everything is starting to move slowly, but starting to move. For example, no, this is not. This is very important for me. The inflation started to. It was going to be an hyperinflation, and they stopped it, and they started to get smaller and smaller and smaller. I think this year, the last year, I had the opportunity to talk with the counselor of Argentina, Diana Mondino, and she told me that she's economist. She told me that she was expecting with the team of the president that they are going to expect 300 or 300 and a half% of inflation for this year. And I think it's going to be far less. They did some quick changes, and they almost stopped the economy, but I think they are doing some changes, major changes to the economy started to develop in the next months.
So how do you, so Milei now has, so is it 4 or 6 years, your election terms for president?
Sorry, again, please.
Is it 4 or 6 years? I forget off the top of my head. 4 years. Okay. So he has basically another 3 years right now until the next election cycle. How do
He started his government in December.
Right. Okay. So he's got 3.5 years still. So then how do you see the next 3.5 years playing out? Do you think that he'll be successful in that short period of time implementing the reforms and the changes that he has? Do you think that there's any areas where he may fall short? So for instance, will he not be able to bring inflation he's already kind of bringing inflation to heel a little bit, but will he get it back towards a more normal level over that period of time? Or do you think this is something that will take substantially more than a 3.5 year, 4 year cycle?
No, I think he's going to, I have confidence in this, in the changes he's making with the teams. And I know the people that is in the government. Some people I know them because I studied with. They were teachers in my university when I was doing my master's degree, and they are very, very good professionals. I want to this be successful. I think it's going to have. It's going to be better than the last 20 years. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be better.
Oh, I can imagine. The world's eyes are watching. I'm sure there's a lot of authoritarians and globalists out there that are certainly rooting against Javier Milei in Argentina. They want this experiment to fail. Know that I'm not one of them. And pretty much every person I know is very excited about what has transpired in Argentina. We're, of course, wishing the absolute best. And we're hoping it is a resounding success, not just for the people of Argentina and the government of Argentina, but frankly, this could be a roadmap for how governance can and should work on a national scale, not only in Argentina, but in the United States, in Europe, in frankly any country, and on a global scale. This could be the catalyst towards a push for genuine freedom and liberty and individual sovereignty. So, Pablo, I really want to thank you for coming on to the podcast with us. This was Proof of Words. Really appreciated your insights, and thank you once again for sharing this with us.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this invitation. Thank you for your time.
It was fantastic. We're going to have to make sure that we get you back on once we're a year or two down the road into Milei's reign.
Okay, we continue
Have a
talking.
good one. It was great to meet you.
Nice. Thank you.